Thank you for downloading and listening to West Box Score. I'm Alex Gonzalez, joined by Donald Paz and Sonny Mano. What's up, guys?
Yo, what's going on?
What's up, Alex?
So we're coming to you on a Thursday evening. We're recording now on a Thursday evening in light of events that have been happening throughout the country in the sports world the last couple of days. I mean, this has been going on in the country since about when did this get started, guys? About early May?
Monday is when. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. When the social justice issues kind of came to the forefront. You're saying?
Yeah.
I believe it was late May, early June.
I mean, it's tough with what's going on with the pandemic, and everybody's just at home and has this angst. And we're on social media a lot more, and that's where the things have kind of started, right? Like, look at this video, guys. Look at what's going on here. And it's kind of, these things have always been happening, but because social media, we're all engaged in it more so now because we have to stay home, that I think that's kind of what's been the ember to this flame. And it's nothing new, right? It's not that this hasn't been happening. It's just highlighted more, because we're on our phones so much more nowadays, more than ever. But the fact that the sports world is doing this it affects us on this podcast here, because we do a sports podcast and we try to make it fun and entertaining for everybody, but it's affected us in a way that it can't be fun and entertaining this week. This week, there's no room for it in the sports world. There's no room for it for us here on this cast, because it's not fun right now. The sports world is not fun. So, Sonny, how is this affecting you? What are your emotions right now?
Well, we sat down on, I think it was Tuesday night, and we recorded as we usually do. We recorded our episode, and the events had actually transpired. The recent events that involving Jacob Blake transpired Monday. And I remember reading a headline about it on Monday, but me having the day I had on Monday, not to get too personal, but I had 2 flat tires on Monday, and it was just a whirlwind of a day for me. So I really wasn't plugged into the world like that, just dealing with just daily life issues, right. Not significant issues, but annoying issues, Right. And so, Monday came and went, and then Tuesday, I didn't tune into the news because I was buried in my work. And then we hopped on, we did the podcast, and it was all laughs and it was fun. And, and I had a great time, as we normally do, again, as we're talking about the thing that what we love and what we're passionate about, and that's sports. And then we wrapped, and I happened to catch the highlights of the Clippers Mavs game that was happening in real time as we were recording our episode. And they cut to Doc Rivers' press conference, his post-game press conference, where they asked him point blank about, specifically the issue and the incident that happened with Jacob Blake. And so it was at that moment that I remember the headline that I read on Monday, and I said, oh man, that's right. I should, what happened exactly? And so of course it prompted me to go and watch the footage. And it was exactly that, man. It was, all the emotions just kind of came back to the forefront. It was sobering, upsetting. It reminded me of what I was afraid of when we were first discussing sports starting back up at the time that we started this or that you guys had started this podcast, right. But that I was kind of behind the scenes, talking with you guys, getting hyped. And it was that I was afraid that sports were coming back too soon for 2 reasons. And that's one, for the COVID sake, and it's still not being safe on that end. And then the other being the distraction that it is, as beautiful as a distraction as it may be at times. And you, Alex, you and I have debated this, I think, early on. Right. My fear was that sports sometimes is an evil distraction in a sense that it kind of takes away our attention from the things that really matter, because we concern ourselves with these, that's how passionate we are. We get caught up in the little details of the game or the minute or the information, the headlines that come out, whether it be Messi, oh, he's leaving Barcelona, or like it just takes over you. It's like gossip, but real reality TV with characters that you know and love and that you watch every day. And
it's a TV show. It's a reality TV show.
Yeah, exactly. And so when this happens again, it's like I felt guilty. I felt guilty immediately after we had recorded the podcast. I felt guilty, one, that I didn't watch the video sooner and inform myself because I've been very adamant about that, since this whole thing started. I've always been adamant about it, but I've been even more adamant about, making it a point. Hey, you know what? Let me not be as invested in sports so that I don't run the risk of getting out of touch with the real world, with the real issues. So it just kind of was a sobering reminder. You motherfucker, like you let it happen to you, and so it was interesting to see, and I'm sure we'll dive into this shortly right now. When the very next day, it was almost like there was a delayed response, even within the sports world, right? Because it happened Monday,
right?
But I don't think we saw any action really being taken until yesterday.
Well, I think it's fair for us as a society, especially on these matters. We need a day to digest what we've seen, what we're seeing. We're really quick to do knee-jerk reactions to things this important, because this is very important. And what really irks me is the fact that people will then take that time to digest and also look into the person that was murdered, essentially. And like, oh, look at his criminal convictions and look at this and look at that. Like, how can you make this person a martyr? This is beside the point of what this person's personal life was prior to this incident. The matter of this issue is that police are getting away with murder. That's what's going on right here. There is no accountability for their actions like they would criminalize somebody else if it was a civilian in the very same situation. And that's what this Black Lives Matter campaign is. That's what this social recall for police reform is for. And the fact that you're entangling it politically with other issues, shame on you. That's ridiculous. I cannot stand that right now. And I understand we need time to digest it, but this is what it is. It's been digested. That's what's going on. That's what the call to action is for. Do the right thing, everybody. You have to do the right thing as a society. Donald, I'll let you take the floor here and give us your opinion on this.
Yeah, so just like Sonny said, we did record all this on Tuesday, ready for it to come out at the time that you're hearing this right now, which is a Friday. But in light of everything that happened Wednesday, which really started when the Bucks chose not to play, that it all of a sudden felt like a wave of something was coming. And then the next couple of hours just went crazy. And I knew, like, I was on Twitter and I'm just seeing all the updates from all the insider beat writers. And, I had already seen the video, I think at the same time as you, Sonny, like after we recorded. And I didn't realize like what really happened in terms of like how that looked so bad and how wrong that looked. And it was really disheartening seeing that video. And for a moment, I kind of was wondering why there was so much like uproar about it with the NBA, with Doc Rivers' speech and everything. But it's like, you don't never really know until you see it. So once I saw the video, it made a lot of sense to me. And, obviously, you guys know I make beats. I work around the hip hop scene, and I have a lot of friends who are rappers. And the thing with hip hop culture is that it started with Black and brown people. So whenever things like this happen, it always feels like I have to really like say something. I have to feel something, and it just comes to me naturally because of the fact that the culture is affected like that. And the thing is that a lot of my friends who are rappers or rappers that I know in the networks, a lot of the producers, they happen to be Black. So they're talking about it and then I'm feeling it. So in the same way, like that's just kind of what it is. And I feel like, just to say like what you were saying, Alex, where obviously there's always agendas and there's always these different sides that try to view things differently or spin things in a different way and build narratives. And obviously, because all of us here work in media, like we're kind of numb to it. And I think that's the other part of it too, is that like, I think that's why I didn't see the video so rapid, like so quickly as other people did a couple of days ago or the days before we recorded. I think it's because we work in media and it's like we're so numb to it. Like I'm used to hearing left and right stuff to the point where I kind of feel like it's a game and it's just about winning. And I think in a weird way, it's kind of like a sport, you know, and it's kind of sad to say because it shouldn't be a sport. It should be something that really affects community and improves community. It should be something that inspires and motivates, you know, community to build and to move forward. And it should inspire progression in a society. Like what these government leaders do, what law enforcement does, should be something that improves the quality of life. And yet, you know, something like this happened and, you know, sides choose, and obviously conservatives tend to be more trying to villainize the victim, which is so sad, but it happens. And I know the other example was the other kid that's now facing murder charges for shooting some protesters, and seeing how kind of conservatives view it as like he was defending himself, and kind of interesting way of spinning it. But that's unfortunately, you guys all know, like we work in media. That's the name of the game. Like it's all about narratives and it's all about storytelling and it's all about how you tell the story and what works. And I don't know. I mean, a part of like, I feel bad and I do stand with the players and what they did, because the fact of the matter is that you can't go out and play if you're not emotionally right. You can't go out and play if you're not spiritually right. You know what I mean? Like Paul George admitted a couple of days ago that his flat performances is due to the fact that he's in isolation in that bubble, and that it's getting to him mentally. And then he snapped out of it, but he had to like let that out. You know, it was probably something he was holding inside. So emotionally, he wasn't right. And people were talking about him like, yo, where's playoff P and all that stuff, and kind of criticizing the guy. You don't realize where people are mentally. And that's why Kevin Love came out with that stuff, with the mental health thing. So, absolutely, you know, for people that try to complain and make it seem like these players are dumb for doing what they did, it's like, well, you try going to your job in a bad mental state. You can't work. You're not functioning right. You know what I mean? Like it's just what happens. It's just we're human beings, you know. So that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Donald. And it's what I can't stand to are people also saying, I'm done with NBA. I'm done with it. That's enough. Like that really, you are enough. That's enough for you. The NBA players are protesting. That's where you're saying you've had enough. Get out of here, man. Like to your point, Donald, these are people who have to deal with this on an everyday basis outside this NBA bubble, outside the NBA league. When they're driving their car, they're just another black person to a cop. That's all they are to them. And they see that justification. They see them as a threat. That is police training. And people are going to say that not all cops are racist. And we're not saying all cops are racist. There are good cops, but there are also bad cops. Not every protester's a good protester, or every protester's a bad protester. And that's the whole issue here, is not, you can't paint everybody with a broad brush. And the fact that there are cops out there who are killing people without being held accountable for it, that's what this is all about. And you cannot have people come together without bringing people together and showing that you give a damn. Give a damn about somebody else other than yourself and what you've seen as enough in your personal life. You have to see it as another human being. Athletes are human beings. The fact that you don't want to hear them and you just want to see them shut up and dribble, shut up. Give respect to another person and hear their point of view as well. I cannot stand that they don't want athletes to speak up right now. This is perfect. Use your platform to speak up on these issues. I'm all for it, but I also am trying to understand why those people feel that way. Why do they feel the need to, I'm done with the NBA? And I can't wrap my head around it. I really wish I could to be more understanding, but I feel like I am understanding the people, and I don't get why you feel that way. Can you maybe understand it a little bit, Sonny? Do you understand that?
I mean, it just boils down to what being human is all about, and what I mean by that is being human is imperfect, is being imperfect basically, and constantly having to work on oneself. Whether you believe in a higher power or if you're religious or whatever it may be, I think we can all agree that there's always work to be done. We weren't made or born perfect. We were born pure, sure. Most of us, I think. There's some devil childs out there, that. But none of us were born perfect. We were all born with opportunity, what I would call opportunity, and that's opportunity to grow into, what would be decent human beings. And notice that I say decent and not perfect, because even as a decent human being, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to fall victim to certain things, or maybe you used to think a certain way, and then it took time for you to grow and realize or learn and start thinking a different way. That's okay. So that's the only thing I could say is that it's those people are just. They're not there yet. Maybe they'll never get there. Maybe they don't want to get there. And that's the only thing I could say as to the people that are having a hard time, understanding why players or athletes, why this even matters, what change they think they're making by not playing these games, et cetera, and the many comments that have been coming out. But the fact of the matter is this: look, them not playing forces us again. It forces us, whether you want to do it or not, but it's one less distraction that you have in your way to actually face the reality of what's going on out there. Whether you choose to go to a different distraction, that's on you. But the players don't want to give you just that extra distraction. And, it's been interesting to see the healthy debate that's been going back and forth, because I'm sure, obviously, all players don't think alike, and that's not to say that all players don't want the same things, but they believe in different strategies or they believe in different philosophies as to how to accomplish this. It's as old as time. There's Malcolm X, there's MLK. Essentially both people felt the same level of oppression, but they interpreted it differently, and therefore that is what determined their actions. They're forward. They both technically weren't wrong, right? It was just different. So I think that's what it is. It's just frustrating. I mean, it requires these kind of issues require a lot of patience from both sides.
Absolutely.
If you're one of the lucky ones that kind of gets it or has learned it, and now it kind of has clicked for you, that's fantastic. But you can't expect everyone to be at your pace. And it's that moment where we kind of grow impatient. And trust me, I'm as impatient as it comes for ignorance. I have a really low tolerance for ignorance. However, I recognize that my impatience is only going to hinder any productivity that there might be between me and that other person. If I want that person to grow with me or just grow for themselves, know. So it's just an ongoing discussion and dialogue that needs to happen. And obviously things like this remind you that it's more than dialogue. It starts with dialogue though. That's the big thing. It starts with dialogue, because before we would just tune back right into our games and you'd forget about it the next day. The Mariners played a doubleheader today after being one of the first teams that decided to not play yesterday. Oh, I'm sorry. This being Thursday, not play on Wednesday.
Right.
And it was one of those things where it was just like that. You could, let's say you were in a coma for a day, or you were like me. You had 2 flat tires on a Wednesday, and you didn't pay attention to what was going on in the world. You wouldn't know any better.
Yeah.
Unless you took the time to stop, listen, and learn. Yeah. And so that's what I implore, everybody to do is like you said, Alex, earlier, everybody has a knee-jerk reaction. It's important that people just take a minute to grasp what's going on and digest it before we're so quick to judge and victim blame or criticize. So yeah, that's
I would say
feel
to your
about
point, digest, discuss, try to understand other people's points of view, and then critically think about other people's points of views other than yourselves, because that's the important thing. You need to have that dialogue, that able, and then take in what the other person's saying, because that's really how we all learn and grow. Because I'm just trying to understand why other people feel this way. Maybe like you say they're not enlightened enough, and that's not proper term either, because it's the way we're thinking may not even be 100% right. Nobody's 100% right. That's the thing, though. Nobody's 100% right on how to properly do something. There's good ideas that you have to take from all sides of everybody's points of view and thinking, but on something that appears to be as clear cut as a murder of somebody being shot in the back, no matter how you're feeling as an officer of the law, it is your duty to protect and serve civilians. And when you shoot somebody in the back because you feel threatened, you need to be held accountable for that and have the proper chains of justice still thrown upon you the way you would be thrown upon a civilian. Your badge doesn't hold you up above anybody else. And I think that's very important. That needs to be discussed within the law enforcement community and the police agencies that govern them. And that's what this protests are all about. And legislation needs to be done on a district level, a county level, up to a federal level. It needs to be reviewed. And that's what a lot of this is all about. And the fact that other sports fans aren't seeing what this is all about is disappointing. And that's all we're trying to get across here with this sports podcast. Believe it or not, this is a sports podcast. So, Donald, if you could give us a bit of a rundown on what the sports world, how it's been reacting, a little bit of the latest on what's going on as far as all the leagues are responding to this latest police shooting.
So just to kind of go on a bit of a timeline here, the Milwaukee Bucks were set to tip off at 4 p.m. Eastern for Game 5 against the Orlando Magic. The coaches had already gone through their pregame media sessions. Brooke Lopez and Eric Bledsoe were already warming up on the court, but then shortly after, the Bucks had a change of heart and decided not to play. They intended to sacrifice a playoff game only to have their opponent, the league, the players, and teams from sports in other leagues around the country join them in this solidarity. And what transpired in the coming hours were basically a decision that led to postponements for the WNBA, Major League Baseball, tennis, and Major League Soccer. We saw a lot of tweets from different players. A lot of players spoke up. The coaches were behind them. The players had a meeting that night to vote on whether they wanted to continue doing the playoffs or not. Clippers and Lakers said no. The rest of the other teams, I believe, said yes, because it was reported this morning that the playoffs would continue. They are still, as of today, Thursday, they canceled the rest of the other set of games for today. I believe Friday is when it comes back for sure. The weekend is when they're definitely planning to come back with the NBA and continue the playoffs. But the latest that I've seen from Mark Spears on Twitter is that the NBA and the NBA Players Association are expected to have a joint statement following the conference they had today, Thursday, conference call they had between players and owners. And they could be announcing a direct action plan that includes a push for police accountability, voting registration, and support of the George Floyd bill. And that's been the latest from the NBA. Of course, around the league, around the rest of the sports, U.S. Sports League, a lot of stuff's happened. Like you mentioned, Alex, there's a lot of back and forth. I did see that. I saw this come across my timeline with MLS, where the Real Salt Lake owner wasn't fond of the game being canceled. He actually said that it took it a disrespect personally. He said that at a local radio station. He said that it's taken a lot of wind out of him wanting to invest in the team. It's really crazy to see an owner say that out of out of anybody. The MLB also had some news. Obviously, the games were canceled. The latest from the MLB was that the Mets and the Marlins took the field for 42 seconds in a moment of silence, and then they both walked off the field. So it appears that game got postponed as well. There's some MLB drama as well. The Mets GM Brody Van Wagenen. He was heard through a video on a press conference, I believe it was a press conference. It was a video where it felt like a hot mic moment. Mm-hmm. And he was saying that Rob Manfred suggested that the players leave the field as a sign of protest and then return at a later time to start the game. Of course, because he got caught, he put out a statement saying, that he misspoke and that it was actually the COO of the Mets, Jeff Wilpon, who made that suggestion. I don't really buy it personally. I know that the Mets are trying to sell the team, so it's just insane. But overall, Wednesday was a day that a lot of the leagues played. We saw a little bit of back and forth, like you said. But the two that stood out to me were the Real Salt Lake owner and this Mets GM. So
the Real Salt Lake owner sounds very reminiscent of a former owner of the Clippers, Donald Sterling, and just the fact that you can be an owner of a team where essentially your players are commodity, and we all understand that all companies thrive with your personnel, but you have to treat your personnel as people, not as a commodity. That's the issue with this ownership, with Donald Sterling and his racist rhetoric there, when he'd bring his friends into the Clippers locker room and show off his players like that, like if they were thoroughbred horses. And that's what I feel a lot of the issue is with these people who are closed-minded and don't see the players that they watch in these leagues as people. They see them as commodity. And I don't understand how you could be a fan of a sport and not enjoy that sport for the personal people triumphs that they are. Like, we watch sports, we all love sports because we see the people succeed or fail as these giant, larger-than-life comic book people, because at the end of the day, they are normal people, and that's why we love them, that they're doing like these superhuman things. And the fact that you can't get behind them on these social issues, I cannot wrap my head around it. Like, you must see these people as that, as not people, but as things. And I don't accept. I can't accept it. Like, I don't. Sorry. Go ahead, Sonny. You want to get into it?
I was going to say, unfortunately, there's dozens of Donald Sterlings who still own franchises across U.S. sports. It's just a matter of us not hearing them on open mics or hot mics, but they definitely exist, or in some form or another. I mean, I would say Jerry Jones is an extension of that same mantra and same school of thought, and Robert that guy Kraft, still, and that guy still runs, and it's not necessarily just that it's tied to political affiliations. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying mindsets, right? Like mentalities.
A systemic racism.
Yeah, exactly. And in baseball, they're rampant. As in the NFL, I know it's also older money that runs that league. So this is one of those things that's it's going to take decades to kind of cleanse that side of sports, and I don't think it'll ever go away. But I think actions like what these franchises took on beginning Wednesday, is the first step, because it's all about player empowerment. You know, back in the day, it was all about ownership, and that exactly being what it is. Them treating, like you said, Alex, their players like commodities. That's why we've always said, well, at the end of the day, sports is still a business, right? Because they're just trading assets and, dumping assets, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. Well, that's not the world we live in now. One of the positives of social media, and there's not many, but one of the positives of social media is that I think it's allowed us as fans to kind of get a peek behind the curtain for some of these players and see that they are everyday folk, Yes, they might have, $1 million or millions of dollars, but they still have children that have to go to school. They still have parents that they have to worry about. They still have brothers or cousins, et cetera, et cetera. They're still one of us. They're just more successful than we've, been in that sense, or more athletic, however
in
you
a lot
want to
better shape,
or however you want to determine it,
No, and a lot of these players come from low income neighborhoods, low income families, and I think that's the thing that gets misinterpreted is the fact that a lot of people believe, they have money now, like they shouldn't be crying and complaining and walking out of the field or whatever. But it's like, it's not about that, man. Like, it's the fact that they have an upbringing that separated them their whole lives from a lot of the things you enjoyed. And now that they have the power to make something happen, they're exercising that power. And the fact of the matter is, this is not new, the boycotting of games. The first NBA boycott, or at least what I read, was 1961. Bill Russell walked out with the Celtics, also for racial injustice. So the fact that people are saying like, oh my gosh, I can't believe what the NBA has become or what sports is becoming. It's like, this has been happening in the Olympics. There's always been spurts of this. It's just that now, like we were talking about when we talked about the Barcelona, it was just everything's being called out. You can't hide anymore.
I think, I was going to say with the NBA, with the Bill Russell issue, the thing that people say, and this is why I say like it's important to become a student of the game, right? Or as we're related to sports, just to become a student of anything really is probably good advice that I think I would give to anybody. I'm always constantly trying to learn my history, whether it be sports history, team history, or actual history, U.S. history, world history, et cetera, et cetera. Because then you'll be able to understand the context of everything a lot better. In the example Donald was giving, the reason why people didn't know about the Bill Russell situation was because the NBA still wasn't being televised back then. So maybe if you read about it in a local paper, if you happen to live in Boston, then you found out about it. But the NBA wasn't global like it is now, So it's just different times, and it reminds me of like when like Donald was saying, when these players get backlash, as to they're making all this money, et cetera. Like what do they have to complain about, right? Despite the fact that we all know most of them came from, as Donald mentioned, lower income, these same neighborhoods where these crimes are happening. It reminds me of like when somebody famous or well off commits suicide. The conversation is always like, what? Like they had all these reasons to live, like why did they do that? They had all this money, they were famous, et cetera, et cetera. And it just goes to show the disconnect again, as humans, we just, because we don't have that, and I'm saying we loosely as just the other side, right? Not that I think this, but because we don't have those same things, we assume life must be grand, life must be great. And we don't take a moment to realize, more money, more problems sometimes in some cases, and not that money is always the issue, but
there's struggles for everybody in any class level, which we understand.
Mental issues are a real deal. And that's what we kind of started this podcast with. And that was the mental health and the mental struggle, of just whether it be Paul Pierce, anybody, humans will forever, for the rest of time, deal with mental health. And if we fail to recognize that any one of us at any given time in our lives can struggle with that at some point, if we're lucky, hopefully it's momentary and it doesn't last for too long, and we're able to recover with a great support system, with health, optimism. But that's easier said than done. And Absolutely. It requires a lot of empathy and a lot of listening. And it's just something that we have to.
It's work.
Yeah. Exactly. And that's the thing. People don't like to do the work, Alex. And I think that's what will answer your question, to try to put a bow on that.
Yeah. Well, empathy and listening puts a bow on that also, because that's what we need right now more than ever in this country. Like, this country, everybody says this is the greatest country in the world. It's like, you haven't left this country to go see other countries. My analogy is always this, like, I have a home and I love my home, but I go to other people's homes and I see like, oh, that house is nice. I like what they have there. I want to try to bring that into my house too. Like, realize that our country is flawed, and that's the beauty of our country. It is flawed and it can be better. Make it better by doing the right things when they're wrong, by correcting wrongs. This right now, what's going on with police activity is wrong right now. That needs to be fixed. Let's fix this country and make it better. Like, that's very clear to me that it needs to be improved. It is very flawed, to your point, Sonny. Donald, go ahead. You wanted to piggyback also on what something Sonny was saying.
Because I mentioned everything is work, and you know, and that's the thing, is people don't want to work. When people complain about what players are doing, people complain about what leagues are doing and how everything's going about. And I'm sure, like Sonny said, there's more of that than we know of. You know, I'm sure even the TNT people were pissed that day that, like, you know, they bumped AEW to Thursday for these games. And I'm sure they would have been like, well, a wrestling show wouldn't have done this, you know. But the fact of the matter is that, like, it's like there's no other way these players would have gotten your attention if they didn't do what they did. And the fact of the matter is, when there's no other recourse, then this is just what you do. Like, I know that people are trying to make it seem like there's another way of fixing or of addressing these issues. It's like, no, obviously the Black Lives Matter paint on the court and the t-shirts aren't really enough. You know, apparently wearing the hat isn't enough. And all that messaging that the NBA did isn't enough. And I'm sure the NBA executives are pretty pissed too, because they're thinking like, wait, what's going on? Like, we gave them a bubble, we gave them all these amenities, and we told them they could put names on their jerseys on the back and this and that, and that, like, well, what's going on, you know? And the fact of the matter is, it's just not enough, because stuff's still happening. And then again, you as owners, as GMs, and, you know, people, executives up in the TNT level, the ESPN level, the owners, all you guys have ties to, like, make things happen and to change things if you want. If you were able to get Disney to give you a hotel and to give you all those amenities, you know, I don't see how you can't make actual progress in communities and whatnot, you know.
Nike, Adidas, Reebok, all of these companies, Jordan, I mean, Jordan's an extension of Nike, but Donald, you're spot on. If these companies and or organizations really are about change, then they need to put their money where their mouth is, really, because that's the biggest thing that they can influence. Yes, they can influence, you know, make a cool commercial, you know, a cool looking social justice message commercial. That's great, you know. But that's all momentary. That's not lasting. It's like a flash in the pan, you know. So if they really want to advocate for change, then they need to actually start initiatives. They need to and back that with financing. You know, they need to be more vocal every election season. You know, as it's coming up, not just during a presidential one. Every year, you know, whether it be local elections, what have you. It's just there's a lot of opportunity.
Well,
but
a lot of change can start with us as fans of sport, and all really that I can think of doing is educating myself on this George Floyd bill that's in Congress now, educating myself on charities that donate to lawyers that help families get the justice they deserve when their family members are killed by police officers. Like, that's all we can do as just people and a society to help right some of these wrongs. And as far as sports fans, also we can do is maybe take a lead from the players here and maybe boycott somebody like Nike and Adidas and Puma and Reebok and all these other places. What can we do, honestly, to say to owners who want their players to play still now? like Real Salt Lake owner, I don't want season tickets for that now, because I think you need to stand by your players here. And if they don't feel like your players personally don't feel like playing, don't make them play. You're going to lose money, and you're going to take our money from you too. Go ahead, Sonny.
It's a tricky conversation, or a tricky thing to consider. I remember when it was happening in May or June, right? And there was this list floating around of franchises that were backed by certain individuals, and it's like, oh, don't go right here, don't go there, right? And then I remember thinking, wait a minute, some of these are franchisee owned by minority folk, you know. So whose pockets are we really hurting here, you know? And that's the thing with this sports conundrum, is because my answer to your question, Alex, would be, us as fans, what we do is just don't watch. You get what I mean? Right. Because if you don't watch, that's one less number that they can count on, you know, banking. They're banking on us watching.
Right. And
giving our money, and maybe even going as far as buying merch, et cetera, et cetera.
Right.
But then at the end of that, you also, if you don't watch and you don't do those things, you're also not supporting, literally financially supporting those players who are using their platform for good.
Yeah.
So it's like a catch-22. It's like which one is it?
Stadium, and then you're affecting the concessions people by choosing. You know what I mean? And I get it. I get what you're saying, Sonny. That's why I went back and talked about executive and owners, because I'm thinking you guys make enough money to make things happen. I get that the brand is a brand, and the teams are teams, and I do understand that, and I do get that too. But I feel like certain individuals of power that don't speak and they're not public can make things happen.
Yeah. So a lot left to be desired.
Listen, I mean, once again, this is a sports podcast, and not all of us support the same teams. I mean, in the world outside, not all of us support the same political parties. But at the end of the day, we all have to support one person of the human race, and that's all we have to stand by for. That's all we all have to come together for, the human race. Just be kind to one another. Be kind to the person next to you in line at the grocery store, 6 feet apart from you. Just be decent. Be a decent person to the next person you encounter. That's all we could really ask of you right now to do. Because there's too much hate, there's too much divisiveness in the world, where all you can do is make a little bit of change and be kind to the person next to you, closest to you, the person you love in the world. Just tell them you love them. Just be happy and spread happiness to somebody else. And hopefully that would be more contagious than any other virus in the world right now. That's what we need to spread, honestly, more so than anybody else, than anything else. Right about now, we're going to play for you what we recorded on Tuesday. Believe it or not, there was breaking news then, which we thought was the most important thing, of Messi being announced that he's wants to leave Barcelona. So we're going to play a little bit of that for you. Hopefully, you enjoyed what we had to say. If you disagree with us, please let us know at WestBoxScore. It's tough to engage online and have any healthy discussion online. It's really not the best place.
It's a start, though.
It's a start. And if you do disagree with us, please allow us to disagree with you, or give us a good enlightened discussion. Please, once again, the word discussion, not just angrily disagree for whatever reason. Disagree, that's fine, but let's discuss your opposing views. So once again, at WestBoxScore, give us a follow on Twitter, Instagram. Donald, Sonny, thanks again for stopping by and talking with me, man.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Donald, what's the big breaking news that's going on right now?
Well, the big breaking news is that Leonel Messi has asked Barcelona that he wants to leave the club, and it's crazy when it broke in Argentina. So it's interesting that it went from his home country. And I was reading the Associated Press's article on it, and it's a little interesting because I guess there's some legalities that are going to be involved. It's not going to be as simply as hey guys, I'm out, I'm done, so it seems like Barca might want to fight for that, just fight for him to stay. But I don't know how I feel about that. I'd love to get your guys' takes first.
Well, Sonny, you being the Barca supporter for years and years, I'm sure this hits so hard for you. I mean, we talked about it briefly earlier today at our day job, and it was so, it felt like a family member had almost had a medical emergency, like some kind of family emergency, like you were taking it pretty hard, and it's obviously not that severe, but it's close. I mean, it's in the realm.
Yeah, man, it's one of those, you'll never forget where you were, especially if you're a Barca. I mean, if you're a football fan.
Yeah, transcends
especially
just the club itself of Barca, which it directly impacts them. But it's everybody talking about this. Even KTLA Channel 5's Facebook page was talking about this. It wasn't just like it transcended sport, essentially.
Although I have to call out Bleacher Report because like I kept refreshing their homepage for like the first 2 hours that story broke, and it wasn't even a headline on their top four headlines. It was mostly all NBA related stuff. So I was kind of irked by that. So what's going on, Bleacher Report? I know you guys lost your Champions League coverage, so you're just ditching soccer like that. I don't understand.
Well, they have their own BR football page, so maybe it was over there. Maybe
we'll put a link to it in the.
I agree. I'm not. I'm just trying to figure out. ESPN was talking about it.
Yes, even CNN had it. Yeah, exactly. So I was kind of irked by that, but that's besides the point.
I get you. It's a huge story right now. It's so it's massive to think after 20 some odd years with the Barca club, right? From the academy. To the big club. Exactly.
Yes.
It's so nuts, and I if you want to pile on to anybody, you could blame me. Because I'm a newer Barca fan, and a coworker of ours has blamed me ever since I declared myself a Barca supporter. They didn't win any trophies this year. Now Messi's leaving. So
this makes sense. Let's see. You became a Rams fan after being a Niners fan, and the Rams lost in the Super Bowl. So you became a Galaxy fan after the Galaxy had won their titles, and they haven't won a title since.
I mean,
so it sounds like the Alex curse. You claim to be a Laker fan, but Donald and I know you don't really watch these games like that. So maybe that's what's saving us.
No, full disclosure: when it comes to Lakers, I'm that stereotypical LA sports fan in the sense where I only really get into the games during the playoffs. I mean, I'll watch during the regular season, like the Christmas Day games against the Clippers and the rivalry games, like the big rivals. That's the only time I get excited as a fan for the Lakers. But because basketball is not my number one sport, I like playing it, but to really get into the intricacies of the game, not that I'm not into. I understand it, but I'm not super into it. To me, the last 5 minutes of the game are the most exciting. So, I mean, I'm not going to sit there from the tip off all the way through. It just doesn't interest me, doesn't gain my interest all the way through to the end.
Well, I was going to say my next guess was going to be that you became a Dodger fan in 1989, and that's why they haven't won the World Series since '88.
That would make sense because at the time of them winning '88, I have no memory of it. I became a Dodger fan actually in 1993 when they started. So it all checks out.
It's Alex
all
curse.
The series all check out. I mean, so for the rest of this basketball season, I'll be supporting anybody but the LA Lakers.
There you go. Support the Clippers. Do us a favor. Go.
The Clippers are so ass backwards that if I support them, they'll actually win. So I'd rather not. So with this Messi news being huge, him leaving Barca, there's so much speculation as to where he'll go. There's a lot of indications toward Manchester City. I've even seen PSG. There's a whole odds list that we've sent, and I love the way that MLS teams have a better chance of getting Messi than Manchester United. Which, as
because of the Alex curse.
Once again, the Manchester United Alex curse rears its ugly head. Also, that Manchester United didn't win any trophies this year either. Once again, it's there. Where do you think he's going to end up going, Donald?
I feel like it's going to be Man City. It's a club that has the means to get a player like him. And then you talk about Pep Guardiola. It's the trending topic happening right now as we record this. Pep and Leonel Messi. So that's how I feel about it. And kind of like harkening back to what Sonny said about Barcelona and how tragic this is. It kind of speaks to the time that we live in right now, where we have, cancel culture. We have millennials, we have Zoomers calling out things that were never called out before in society. And it doesn't matter how big of a name or how big of an organization you are. Now you're susceptible to seeing, like, people seeing that you're human and that you bleed. And I think this was a long time coming for Barcelona, given, how they handled the past couple of seasons. Past couple of years, we saw it with the Lakers as well, that post-Kobe, pre-LeBron era, and how dark that was. And that was the Lakers. And you're just seeing it all over. You're seeing it with Manchester United. Like, they're on a bit on an uptick right now, but they were going through a couple seasons where it just looked like, whoa, like, this is not what they're supposed to be doing. So it's crazy to see it happen. But I feel like it just kind of reminded me, that whole Bayern game where it was 8-2 reminded me. That Bayern game plus what's happening right now reminds me of the Dame Lillard shot last season, where he shot that ball, it went in, bye-bye, and then OKC blew up. And not that OKC was like a big, they're not a big club or anything like that. They're a small market team, but for as stacked as they were, as great as they were supposed to win something with the talent that they had, and yet nothing transpired. And, you can make the argument that, Russell Westbrook's career was pretty wasted there. So was Kevin Durant and James Harden. But, it blew up that whole team, and that's kind of what happened. And you would have never thought that would happen. But I think it was time for Barcelona to face the music at some point, and it was going to be a public embarrassment. And now we're seeing it. So, yeah, and it's memeable. So.
So this thing's been festering actually with Messi for a while, and I got my first glimpse of it watching them this year when they failed to win La Liga, and they were in the running, but then just had that collapse when they restarted play. And the sentiments of this kid and this clip pretty much says it all.
Otra vez repetimos la maldita historia. Esto no se merece ser un equipo grande. Esto no ser un equipo grande. Esto ser un equipo de vergüenza.
No es un equipo grande. Es un equipo de vergüenza. I mean, that kid speaks to me so truly, because as once again this new Barca fan, I'm like, oh dude, they got it. They're gonna turn it around right now. But Real Madrid did not lose. And for whatever reason, Barca couldn't just get wins. Like, they were drawing a lot of those close games. And that was my first indication, like, oh, something's up with this team that's supposed to be this big club. It has the superstar Messi. It has Suarez. It has Piqué. It has, Ter Stegen. It's a super club, essentially. But yet they're not getting it together. And then they changed their coach prior. So the writing was on the wall. Right. So, Sonny, now that, and I remember you just saying Messi's not going anywhere. They're going to blow up the team, but Messi's not going.
Well, that's what, when I said that, meaning they should blow up the team. Obviously, everybody but Messi was expendable, and Ter Stegen. And I think I said Frankie de Jong, Ter Stegen, and Messi. Those were the three that you just would build around. But obviously Messi had enough, man. I mean, he doesn't want to be part of a rebuilding process. Again, as I had mentioned, he's 33. He's got 2 more years, maybe 3 left to compete at that highest level before he would even consider, something like the MLS or, a secondary league where he can kind of ride off into the sunset. And I think he kind of looked around and saw the walls crumbling, and seeing the leadership up top from the president Bartomeu, who again has extended his welcome, should have been canned 3 years ago. There should have been a new president elected 3 seasons ago, and seeing them mismanage their spending, La Masia has not replenished any of their talent. And just the team not delivering on the field, I think, was enough for him to say, you know what, it's either I'm part of this rebuild with this new coach who's probably a lame duck anyways, because if there is a new president, he might fire this coach, and then it just becomes another. It was a shit show. It became a shit show at Barcelona, and I think Messi. I don't blame him. You know, it sucks. You know, this is not one of those like jersey burning moments, you know, and I hate those things anyways, whenever anyone leaves and people start burning jerseys. But this is definitely not even close to one of those moments, because Messi did so much for this club and has done so much for this club. And repeatedly they've kind of ignored him or let him take the hits as opposed to taking them on themselves. That I think I totally get why he would, you know, be yearning to go somewhere else. And Man City makes perfect sense, man. I mean, on top of what Donald said with obviously the Pep Guardiola reunion, I think I had mentioned in our group text, the Kun Agüero, connection makes even more sense. Those guys are BFFs. You know, they're godparents to each other's children. They got super tight from the sub-20 World Cup team, the Argentinian World Cup team, and they've been tight ever since. So I could see all the reasons. I know for a fact that Messi wanted to leave for Man City 4 years ago, but then decided that he was going to stick around because his new friendship with Luis Suarez was blossoming. And at that time, I think we still had Neymar. And, you know, things were still looking up at that point, or salvageable. Yeah. And I think he decided, not now. But now, look, like I said, they've wasted 4 years of his prime. And what does he have to show for it besides a couple more La Liga titles? Yeah. So it makes sense, and I don't blame him. And I think if he does go to Man City, I wish him well. I can't wait to see it. You know, of course, I'm still a Barca fan first. I want the club to rebound, recover, and I don't want them to experience too many dark days. I know Madrid fans everywhere are celebrating, partying right now, like if they were the Galaxy that had just beat the LAFC on a fluky game during a COVID season. I can imagine it now, man. But anyways, I don't know where I pulled that analogy from. It just kind of came to me.
Weird. Or a fluky game inside of a weird bubble that makes no sense. Interesting how the excuses now can change.
You know, I'm just saying, it's like I can picture these Real Madrid fans. It's like, don't act like you did anything. Your club didn't get any better. It's just the other team got worse.
I mean, they did win La Liga title, though. I mean,
in a weird... of course. Finally, you know, they won La Liga title with Zidane. And it's just, I'm curious, you know, it's like the ball's in their court now. I still think Bartomeu has to go during the next elections in March. Yeah. Especially now, he's forever going to go down as the president who pushed the GOAT away, you know, or let him slip away, however you want to look at it.
Yeah. It's crazy because right now in this moment, it's interesting seeing how the club looks so villainized based off, you know, and all because they put it out that there's a contractual thing. And that I guess June was the day, which is ridiculous, bro. Like, we're in a COVID season. You shut down the season. Like, whatever the date was doesn't really matter. Exactly. Like, if he wants to walk out and, you know, he can go free and clear, Barcelona as a club should be the bigger person to say, we wish you the best of luck. Thank you for everything, versus, well, we're going to probably take this to court. We're going to lawyer up. It's such a bad look. And they look like such villains right now. Yeah. And that's the only thing I don't like about it, because again, like, you know, as supporters of this club, like, we want to see this club succeed and be seen good, but damn, it sucks when you kind of hate the front office in the moment, you know? So that's kind of what's happening right now.
Yeah, is Jimmy Buss running Barcelona over here? Once he got fired from the Lakers, he was like, yo.
Checking Jimmy Buss. Yeah, dude. It's horrible.
It's not set in stone that he is going to Man City. Do you guys foresee any way he goes just randomly somewhere else? It's like, really, it's like, a real dark horse team that he may end up with? Like, who would be your wildest guess?
I don't think it's dark horse, because as you mentioned on that odds scale, you know, that's floating out there of what teams have the best chances to land Messi. I do think that the snag that Man City is facing is, let's just say that Barcelona doesn't let Messi walk free and clear, right? And they negotiate some type of buyout clause. Right now, Man City's been scrutinized for their fair play, financial fair play rules. So unless Messi is free and clear, good luck trying to, negotiate a new contract with him and take care of that buyout clause, whatever it may be. Let's just say they negotiate one. So because of that, I do still think Inter Milan are in play here, because the one thing that Messi is going to have to do no matter where he goes is take a pay cut, a wages reduction, except that in Milan, there's tax advantages that he wouldn't have to pay as he would if he were to go to a place like Man City or any of the English teams for that matter. But in Milan, there's tax advantages where he actually would pocket more money. So it would kind of offset the wages that he would be losing. We hear these negotiations happen all the time when NBA free agents are out there. Miami's a dark horse, right? Because in the tax angle, et cetera, et cetera.
Exactly.
Same thing with soccer. It's not any different in that sense. So so that's a team to definitely keep an eye on. They've also been trying to get Messi for what seems like a decade now. It's been Chelsea, Man City, and Inter Milan, the three teams. Coincidentally, the three teams that have the most money or that are owned by Asian or Middle Eastern companies.
Arab money, dude.
That have been trying to get Messi now for the last decade. And now that there's a chance, just watch the bidding process happen. So I do think Messi's preference is Man City, and I think he's going to push to get that deal done, whatever way it needs to get done. But if for whatever reason there is a snag that's hit and he's not able to go there, watch out for a team like Inter Milan to step in and sign him.
Inter Milan is ranked number 2 in this odds, plus 272, plus 275 for Man City, the favorites. Second is Inter Milan with plus 333. Third place, though, or third in the list here is Juventus with plus 1,000 odds. Yeah. So what would that look like? Ronaldo and Messi on the same team, man.
It's a FIFA game, bro.
Right?
That's a freaking... Are you kidding me? I mean, again, unfortunately, they're both at the end of their primes. Ronaldo certainly more than Messi, but still, man. I mean, Ronaldo's still delivering at a level that he can still compete in Europe. So it'd definitely be a ticket that I'd pay to see. But I don't see that happening, man. Right. I think the rivalry is too real. There's no way Ronaldo, I think, would welcome Messi. I think Messi would welcome being on Ronaldo's team, kind of, but I don't think Ronaldo would welcome Messi.
Didn't Ronaldo say at those at the Balón de Oro presentation that he's waiting for Messi to invite him to dinner? Didn't he say that effect? It seems like Ronaldo's more open to be friends with Messi than Messi is to be Ronaldo.
But he's full of shit because Ronaldo has been the one to always talk shit about Messi. Like, when the comparisons come up where he'll say like, I've done this, what has he done, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah. I mean, that's gamesmanship though. I feel like he's trying to sell himself as a brand. I don't know.
Exactly.
That's me because Ronaldo's going to be with the Galaxy in 2 years. So that's me being nice.
That's you because you're a Madrid fan, huh?
Oh, there it is again. So looking at the teams again, like where do you think somebody like Messi fits best of these teams that are available or that are bidding for him right now, like a Manchester City, Inter Milan, Juventus, PSG, Liverpool? Who are Newell's old boys? What league is that?
Yeah. That's his home club in Argentina.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's who he first started playing before he moved over to Barcelona.
Okay, and then
didn't believe in him.
Exactly. Just before
why would he want to go back? Yeah. So why would he want to go back to a team that didn't believe in him? So I don't get
because it's his homeboy. It's his home club, dude. It's like back to. It's like if you came back to play for the Dodgers for the Dodgers, even though they fucked you over when you were a kid.
Yeah, I get it.
When LeBron came back to the Cavs,
Yeah, exactly.
That's true. So what team do you think he fits best on?
I think Man City makes good sense. They're there already. Like, I still don't think it's right that they got their whole thing overturned. That was so wrong.
But that's why they shouldn't get him. That's why it's not fair if they were to get him. That's why I don't like it.
That's you, the Man United fan, that's saying that. Though.
They shouldn't even be in Champions League. They're scum.
Yeah, but yeah, I think Man City to me makes the most sense. I feel like some of those guys on the current roster are probably going to be on their way out. I don't see why they would still stick around. And I think that they're already there to just. They landed second in the Premier League, and they're going back to the Champions League. I don't see why not. Like, if it seems like he's gonna want to go somewhere that's gonna compete for a Champions League title, and I think Man City has the best shot out of all of them, which I guess is why why that team's up there. Inter Milan. I mean, we just saw them; they were in the Europa final. I mean, does he want to go back to the Europa, final if for whatever reason Inter Milan gets knocked out of the group stage again and then gets bumped down again? And then Juventus, like you guys stated, I don't see it either. I think that's just too much for Ronaldo to handle. And yeah, I think Man City to me just makes the most sense. Other than that, I mean, maybe MLS at that point, just because you really just want to have fun. And then at the MLS, that's a whole different conversation of whether it's going to be Inter Miami, might be like a bigger, might be LAFC, LA Galaxy. Does he want to be a superstar? I mean, he's such a reserved person, so like sometimes I kind of wonder, does he just want to like break loose one of these like years, just like and be the crazy guy that gets all the crazy. I mean, we saw him in the Pepsi commercial, but what if he wants to do more and kind of be out there a little bit more,
I think stylistically speaking, Inter Milan makes a lot of sense, more than Man City. If we're talking just style of soccer, suited to his type of game, because the thing is, I agree with Donald. That cast alone is a Europa League team. That cast with Messi is a Champions League contending team, because Barcelona have been trying to sign their young forward now for a couple seasons, or have been talks in signing their young forward. I mean, they still have Lukaku. I don't know if he'd stick around if Messi were to be there.
Yeah.
They do have some veterans on there, and they're well coached. Conte is now staying, even though it was believed that he was going to be on his way out. So I do see that as a potential fit. I think Pep Guardiola actually has moved on from the style that he once had with Barcelona. He kind of employs a different style at Man City these days. But his familiarity with Messi, obviously any team Messi is on, you have to build around him. So he's going to have to revert back to some of that, passing through the middle style. And it's exactly why Man United makes no sense for Messi, because your head coach, Alex, at Man U, does not have that passing style. He's more of a counter attacking. He wants a lot of speed. So that's why. But Man City, they play a nice hybrid style, is what I would call it. So stylistically speaking, I think Inter Milan makes sense. But like Donald said, to try to win titles just with the talent. I mean, think of De Bruyne and Messi.
Yeah,
on the
that's
same
what I was saying,
team, dude. Like, whew,
Sergio Aguero is who I was thinking about that could move on. And
no, he'll
Messi,
stay. That's Kun Agüero. That's his best friend, his compadre right there. There's no way. Kun Agüero is part of the
You think
appeal.
they just stick? You think that that give him more? I guess that would give him more incentive to stay then, right?
Absolutely.
Because I kind of feel like I've always heard rumors that Aguero would be the one that would want to leave if for whatever reason Man City doesn't, really compete and win anything.
Yeah, I agree. That was pre-Messi, but now it's going to be everyone but Kun Agüero, De Bruyne. Everyone else is expendable. However, they need to cook the books to be able to make it look like they got them legit. But we'll see, man. But my money, Man City is where he's probably going to end up. But I hope Barcelona doesn't get in the way of this, though. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, they got to move on.
Yeah, and if Man City's good at anything, it's cooking the books. That's what they're really best at. God damn, Man City.
Well, that was good soccer talk for today, boys. Let's move on.
That's it, right?
To the,
We're all done
NBA,
here. Moving on. Lakers. Oh, wait. There was one other big soccer story that happened last weekend, and it was the MLS restart. It was Saturday on Big Fox, so that means everybody got to see this match that was sloppy-ish because one team decided to play and the other team couldn't play because it was too hot for them. So they just they needed some Capri Sun and orange slices to get
nobody
going.
used that excuse on our end. Nobody used that. I don't know where you're pulling this from. Nobody used this excuse on our end.
Let me pull up LAFC beat writer Dylan Hernandez is
okay, well now if you're just following anybody, let me pull up a bunch of trolls for you on the internet.
Did he not quote LAFC players? Donald, did you see this this said article? There was a quote by an LAFC player, and I'm gonna pull it up while Donald give us the recap.
Fake news.
I think that guy's busy somewhere else talking as we're recording this. So Donald, give us a Trafico results, but nice and slowly. Let Sonny savor this moment. Sonny, turn up your headphones. Listen to this real nice.
Donald, there's something going on with your mic, bro. I don't know.
Well, the El Trafico took place again over the weekend. I know all of us were in a group chat, and it was fun to group chat. It's always fun to group chat during El Trafico. But it was funny because, as Alex is asking me to recap the game, the first goal made by Ethan Subak at the 26th minute, about maybe a minute before Alex
literally
had texted that
he flamed him, dude.
Well, dude,
he flamed him. He said, "I hate Subak."
No,
get him out of there.
Zubak is trash.
And then Zubak scored. So maybe it's that reverse thing that Alex has.
Alex curse. In fairness, if you looked at that play, anybody could have scored that goal. I don't know how the hell LAFC was defending that corner kick. They had everybody on the front line, on the front post.
Trying to stay out of the sun, dude.
They
were out in the shade. They're like, oh,
for real.
You got this, Ramir.
Because there were 6 dudes free and clear of the back from the Galaxy.
Yeah,
it really was just
No, I saw the replay, and it was like, what the heck? Like, there's nobody near none of them. And there's 4 Galaxy guys next to each other.
The ball found Subak's head.
They're like, you got it, Ramir. We believe in you. And then the second goal was scored in the second half by Sebastian Lletget on a nice little cross. That was clean. So that was really impressive. Galaxy won 2-0. There was a heat wave. It affected a lot of the players. I feel like if you're older or over 30, you definitely weren't feeling it. Me being at 34. If Bradley asked me to go out there in a black jersey, definitely, I don't know about that. I'll probably go shirtless, and you can write the number on my back with a gold marker, and my last name, and we're good. But Carlos Vela subbed out at the 57th minute, which was a bummer to see because we love seeing when it's competitive, and Vela makes it competitive. But Vela looked really rusty on my end. I felt like you could tell he had the time off. And then, it just wasn't bad. And I know there's an update on him. Jonathan Dos Santos was subbed in at the 65th minute.
El Capitan.
With the improved English, which was amazing. And he did his thing in the midfield. He definitely made a difference, I felt, when he came in. There was a little bit of an injury in the midfield that helped out. But my critique is just credits to Guillermo Berscaleto. I think he definitely looked like he watched a lot of that film from the Orlando game and was figuring out how to counter, and he looked like he just kind of prepared the team for a good matchup. And
he said as much. He said we had a month to get ready for this match.
Yeah.
So I mean, we talked a lot of smack about him having a style which is no style of play for them. So we have to eat our words a little bit here. That he finally came out with a game plan and executed it. So I got to quote Tristan Blackman, LAFC defender. You ready, Sonny?
Mm-hmm.
We've been training in the heat for a little bit now. So we should be decently used to this temperature by now, especially since we're at home. But I do think it played a factor, and you could see that we were moving as we normally would. That was how he said it, just so you know. He was crying as he said that. Yeah.
Is that what that? Are you done? That was cute. Are you done?
Because you said none of the players were commenting on the heat.
No,
but they were.
Listen, the heat was a factor for both squads, but the fact of the matter, let's call it what it was. You want me to give you the recap of the game?
Give us your version of the events that happened.
I'll tell you the real events that happened. Galaxy came to play. and LAFC left their shit on the bus or wherever at home because from the jump they looked terrible. They had no energy. They were flat. Galaxy, it was out hustling them, out beating them to every ball. So again, and I'm not saying this as a diss to Galaxy. I'm giving you guys credit.
It's coming off a little bit that way.
No. This is not a diss. I'm calling it exactly what it was.
Okay.
Again, y'all were the one that were throwing a party after getting your first win of 2020.
You realize
Listen. You were throwing a party after getting your first win of this calendar year. Okay, so dating back to October of 2019, I think actually, if we do the math. So, but the fact of the matter was, again, Galaxy showed up, at least came ready to play. And that's a credit to your team, you know, a credit to your coach for having his players ready to go.
Right.
Not only that, I think Bob Bradley should have taken a page out of the Galaxy's book in the sense that instead of starting Carlos Vela, bring him off the bench. You know, he hasn't played competitive soccer like that in 6 months almost, you know, 5 months. Smart. So why are you in a hurry or rushing to start him? I get you want to reintegrate him as much as possible with the team, but there's plenty of time to still do that. So, and I get that this is a Trafico, but you're not supposed to bend to the will of the stupid name that is El Trafico. You're supposed to bend. You're supposed to bend to the will of what makes most sense for your players' health, right? So I definitely thought that was like a miscue on Bob Bradley's end. He should have brought in Vela because maybe then Vela doesn't get injured. He's able to ease in. And guess what? If we're trailing, maybe Vela provides a spark, right? You see him coming off the bench. Maybe that changes enough of the game where you're like, oh, okay, we have what we need now. But that didn't happen. Again, credit to Galaxy. That second goal was beautiful. Perfect counter. A great finish. But if we're going to say that that's it, problem solved, like, you know, Galaxy is the better team, better than LAFC, that's just not true. You know, they were better on the day, yes, then they got the result. But LAFC didn't show up. They played like shit. Galaxy did show up, gave it their best effort, and that's what's going to happen. You know, you're going to fall to lesser teams if you don't show up. You know, even in the MLS. Sometimes you'll get away with it, and I think that's what LAFC has gotten accustomed to, where their offense is able to bail them out when they fall behind like that. But on a hot as hell day like that, you think your offense is going to be able to just run all day long and try to, you know, score 3 goals when you're down 2? Nah, man, that's not the strategy you want. That's not the plan. And so props to you guys. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you enjoyed that champagne. You know,
we enjoyed that Bud Light seltzer.
That's right.
Exactly.
That Chicharito sponsored Bud Light seltzer.
How about Chicharito getting the Europa League title and winning the Trafico match all within a week span, dude? Within about a week. It's good for Chicharito, man. See, look, he's paying off already.
That's right. I forget that he gets a share of that Sevilla Europa League win.
Yeah.
That's so hilarious. But as Galaxy fans, we hope this is this ember to light a flame, and hopefully they do a little bit better these next couple games here. But yes, it's just one win. We don't want to get too excited over it, but they looked...
Then don't.
I'm not. But I'm just saying they look like they righted a few wrongs that have been bothering them for so long with just no identity of style, but they came out with a style that I think looked a lot better in the sense where the passing was crisper. And this is all in the heat. So you would think, because they've given us this bar they've set now, we're like, we expect this play now from your next match. And if it reverts back, then you're just that terrible team that you were before this big win. So we have to see what happens.
For sure. I think we've talked about this before. I think when it comes to a rivalry match, everything goes out the window. As far as who's been playing well, who's been playing bad, none of that matters. You know, and so that's why it's hard to take this game as a barometer. There's cautionary tales, you know, as a result, and definitely lessons to be learned. But it is, at the end of the day, it was one rivalry game where one team beat the other and outplayed the other. So,
but to be fair, all these games in this 6-game MLS restart are rivalry games for Galaxy, and with the exception of LAFC, they have one game against Real Salt Lake, which I think you've even said LAFC don't have any true rivals because they're such this big club.
No, Galaxy is the rival. I've conceded. Of course, Galaxy is their rival.
Beside Galaxy, that's their only rival.
Seattle is definitely becoming a rival, just with the frequency in which now we're meeting them. In whether it be the MLS is back tournament that we just played them in, the fact that we played them in the last playoffs. So that's quickly becoming a rivalry also, and LAFC have no rest for the wicked, man. That's who they have next on their schedule. So hopefully they turn it around quickly.
And Bella's going to be out for a while too. So let's see how they do without your captain. It's going to be interesting. They could go on a, believe it or not, an LAFC losing streak. Yeah, how would that feel at that point?
It would sting, but luckily it's still early enough where you have time to right the ship. So I'm not too concerned. I'm more annoyed by their performance than anything. I'm not concerned though, but again, I'm annoyed by their performance, and I'm annoyed by the decision in how they handled Carlos Vela, and now they dug this hole kind of that they have to play out of.
Yes, the LAFC definitely outclassed that day.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Thank you again to Sonny and Mono for joining us. Check out his podcast, The Fox Crate Podcast. Follow him on Instagram at The Fox Crate. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast downloaded. See ya.
Peace.
Later.